Welcome. It is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as we try to build this thing up. Offseason carrying along for Green Bay and the rest of the National Football League. The first real few waves of free agency have come and gone. There's still some good players available. Green Bay appears to have made its two primary moves by getting Nate Hobbs to come over from Las Vegas at corner and Aaron Banks to come over and play guard from San Francisco to Green Bay. And, really as things have carried along in these first couple of weeks of free agency, I'm just wondering, I'm looking around and I'm starting to wonder, and I think we know the answer, but I have genuine curiosity as to what the plan is on the offensive side, specifically with the passing game. The running game we love. Josh Jacobs, a bell cow. Josh Jacobs, a home run signing for Brian Gutekunst and company last offseason. The offensive line, I like it. Josh Myers is out. You expect Elton Jenkins to slide over to center. Aaron Banks is your left guard. You have Zach Tom at right tackle, who's due for a big payday. As of right now, you probably have Rasheed Walker slotted at left tackle, Sean Ryan again at right guard, and you have your first-round pick from a year ago in Jordan Morgan, who could be that guard-tackle hybrid. We'll see what happens there. And at tight end, love Tucker Kraft. I do believe he is a budding, not star, I would say a budding superstar at tight end in the NFL. So there's a lot going right for Matt LaFleur's offense as far as pieces in place, depth, contributors, and I should say proven contributors like Josh Jacobs is a proven contributor. We saw it with the Raiders. We saw it year one with the Packers. The offensive line has proven talent. All-pro level play from two of those guys in Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom. Steady play at left tackle from Walker, right guard with Ryan. We'll see what Aaron Banks does at left guard. But with the passing game, it's just become sort of a head-scratcher because you look at primary focuses this offseason, what we all believe them to be for Green Bay, and you're talking corner, you're talking edge rusher, and you're talking wide receiver. I can't say it enough in past videos. Christian Watson is set to miss a significant portion of the 2025 season with a torn ACL, and he's in a contract year. Romeo Doubs also eligible extension. Doubs hasn't taken the step to be a number one wide receiver, in my opinion. Neither has Watson. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks had opportunities last year. Instead, both were top 6 in the NFL in drops. Reed flashed early and then really dipped out late. Wicks just sort of had a roller coaster ride. And so wide receiver was a key area of need for the Packers, and I get they can address it via the draft that they want. Keep in mind, this is an organization that hasn't drafted a receiver in the first round since it took Javon Walker in 2002. And I should preface by saying, I lobbied for the Davante Adams reunion and that idea, and I know some of you guys and gals were against that, and I'm fine with it. But nobody, for those who said, I don't want Davante Adams, they had another solution in mind. There wasn't, in my estimation, from what I saw and what I gathered, even talking to my buddies who are Packers fans, there was nobody who said, I'm fine with rolling with how things are at wide receiver going into next year. For those, when I was throwing out Davante Adams as an idea and people pushed back on it, it was because they were I'd rather trade for DK Metcalf, or I'd rather try to get, Deebo Samuel, or, if Cincinnati doesn't bring back T. Higgins, I'd like to explore that. It wasn't, hey, I don't want Davante because I think we're fine at wide receiver. It is a key area for Green Bay. And I'll say this, Davante goes to LA, he's with the Rams. I am okay with not signing Davante Adams. I'm not up in arms. I'm not throwing a fit about it. But to not even have a conversation with him was bizarre to me. There was clear interest, and maybe the focal point for Davante truly was to go back to the West Coast, as reports indicated. But there were also reports that indicated Davante Adams had an interest in at least discussing a reunion in Green Bay. And a lot of those same reports after he signed with the Rams said the Packers didn't even have a discussion with him. They didn't even pick up the phone to chat with Davante. And to me, that was bizarre for a team that it felt like it could have been a fit. And then for all the rumors and circulation we saw around DK Metcalf, right, and those swirling, circulating rumors, I'm fine with not trading for DK. He goes to Pittsburgh, fine. to not even call Seattle to see what it would take, like reports have verified, Green Bay did not do that. They did not pick up the phone. They did not call Seattle, did not entertain it. To me, it's somewhat irritating. You're missing Watson. You need a deep threat, and you need more than that. You need consistency in the room. And to me, this all circles back to Jordan Love. And really, I just went on, now for the first few minutes, and I kind of buried the lead. I'm actively wondering, is too much being put on Jordan Love's plate as of now entering 2025? Is Green Bay, the front office, the coaching staff, are they expecting too much of Love instead of helping him out? And here's what I mean. Washington just made the NFC Championship, and you'll have to forgive me if I sound a little bit stuffed, allergy season starting to kick in. Washington just made the NFC Championship with its rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. They selected him high first round, was number 2 overall pick out of LSU. And so they just get one game away from the Super Bowl just a couple of months ago. And to me, the Commanders could have sat back and said, hey, Jaden Daniels looks like a star. He looks like the guy, franchise quarterback, next decade. Boom, we hit the lottery with this. And I don't think many would have blamed Washington if they would have said, hey, we have needs at A, B, C, spots, D, E, F. We're going to circle around those areas. We're going to rely on Jaden Daniels to take another step in 2025 and help carry this offense even more than he did as a rookie in 2024. Instead, Washington said, no, we already have a star, a proven star in Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is a number 1 wide receiver. Washington goes out and they trade for Deebo Samuel. They snag him from San Francisco. Here's another weapon for you, Jaden Daniels. No. We're not going to look at the situation and say, we know you haven't reached your ceiling yet. You're only going to get better, so we're going to rely and bank in on that. We're going to push chips into the middle of the table that say Jaden Daniels will help, get us over that hump even more by himself in 2025. Maybe not by himself, but with the same supporting cast or a similar supporting cast. They go on there like, we know you have a number 1 in Terry McLaurin. Here's Deebo Samuel. Washington went out and said, let's make life easier for our star quarterback. Now, is Deebo Samuel like a bona fide superstar wide receiver? No, not in my opinion. He leans more towards, I don't want to call him a gadget player, but that's kind of what he is at this stage in a sense. He's more than that, but if you boil it down to it, you can use him in a lot of different facets in a lot of different ways. Did I want Deebo Samuel in Green Bay? No. He was not on my radar necessarily, and he might go into Washington and be tremendous and a big asset to the offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case whatsoever. I didn't like the fit. I didn't like that piece being in Green Bay. And so the point isn't, hey, Washington got Deebo and Green Bay didn't. No, the point is Washington, coming off a year, 1 win away from the Super Bowl, could have said, man, let's look at defense a little bit more. Let's look at our defensive front because we've lost a couple pieces up there in the last couple of years. Let's look at linebacker. Let's add to the secondary because we traded for Marshawn Lattimore, but let's maybe look for a younger piece that we know can be around. Maybe a Paulson Adebo who ended up with the Giants or whoever, Charvarius Ward who's a veteran but has a lot of gas left in the tank. Instead, and they made other moves, Washington said, we're going to go out and get Deebo Samuel. We're going to get our quarterback another weapon to make life easier for him. And I go back and I remember when Aaron Rodgers started in 2008, and I'm sure many of you remember it. Rodgers' first year as a starter came in 2008 after sitting behind Brett Favre for a few seasons. And when Rodgers had, his first go-around, year 1 as a starter, he had a proven veteran wide receiver in Donald Driver. Was he aging? Yes, but Donald Driver was still producing numbers in his early 30s. Rodgers also had a wide receiver in Greg Jennings who was entering his 3rd year as a starter and in his first 2 years had shown clear evidence this dude is ready to really just burst onto the scene. We see it. There is tangible evidence that this guy isn't a secondary or a tertiary option. He can be a primary number 1 wide receiver. And he showed that in 2008 in his first year with Rodgers as the QB1, but it was Jennings' 3rd year in the NFL. And so I can't look at how Jordan Love started out. In Green Bay, I don't blame them. They went with a method of, hey, Jordan Love, first year as a starter, young quarterback, sat a couple years behind Aaron Rodgers. Let's try to match up timelines. Let's go with young wide receivers, young tight ends. We draft Luke Musgrave. We draft Tucker Kraft. We take Dobbs and Watson in the same draft class. A year later, we take Reed and Wicks in the same draft class. And on the surface, I was fine with that order of operations. I was fine with that blueprint that Green Bay laid out, which was we have a young quarterback coming in instead of, supplying him with a bunch of veterans who will age out eventually or earlier than what Jordan Love's timeline is. Let's go with a young group of wide receivers. And so I was fine with that. But it didn't work last year. The passing game regressed. And there were many reasons for that, right? Like Jordan Love took a step back. Jordan Love wasn't the same guy we saw in the second half of his first year as a starter and in that playoff game, especially against Dallas. He regressed, and injuries played a part in that. Matt LaFleur's scheme, which had been slicing and dicing the second half of Love's first year as a starter, regressed a little bit in terms of we did not see guys flying wide open nearly as much as we did in that first year when Love was the starter. And then the wide receiver group, no wideout took that big leap that Goody and company were hoping for. And I was fine with going into last year under the hope, even if it was somewhat, a long shot, and I didn't view it as that, though. I was fine going into last year saying, let's roll with Dobbs, Watson, Wicks, and Reed and see if one of these guys can become a true number one option. It didn't happen. And so this offseason, to me, it became apparent you have to find a solution there. Make life easier for your young starting quarterback. And they haven't done that. Instead, to me, what they're doing is they're filling up Jordan Love's plate even more. Philadelphia just won the Super Bowl, right? You remember Jalen Hurts' first year as a starter? I want to say it was 2021. I think Hurts was 2020, right? I think Hurts was drafted 2020. Either way, his first year as a starter, 2021. Ups and downs, rocky, whatever cliches you want to throw in there, right? Like it was kind of how a lot of first-year starting quarterbacks look. Peaks, valleys, good, bad. But there was a lot of optimism around Hurts after his first year as a starter in Philadelphia. They didn't waste any time. They went out after Hurts' first year as the starting quarterback and said, we're going to make a splash. We're going to find someone proven. We can do it through the draft. Every draft pick comes with a risk because there are no certainties. You feel good. You have a gut feeling about certain guys and certain prospects that they'll work out better than others, but nothing is a guarantee with draft picks. Philadelphia went out and said, there's a guy in Tennessee named A.J. Brown. He's a star wide receiver. This dude is a stud. And they went out and they said, let's make life easier for Jalen Hurts. Here's A.J. Brown. And I know Green Bay cherishes their draft picks. That's why I like the Devontae Adams option more than others, because it was a free agent option. You don't have to give up draft capital to bring him in. Instead, he goes to the Rams, of course. We all know the story. But I'm looking around, and Philadelphia said, we see something with Jalen Hurts. Let's make it easier for him. Here's A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has been incredible for the Eagles since he arrived. They win the Super Bowl back in February. A.J. Brown, a big reason why Philadelphia had the season they did as it reached the mountaintop. And I don't get how they'll go out and they'll draft a wide receiver. And they might go out and draft 2 wide receivers this April. I don't doubt that. But they need solutions now. They need guys they can slot in now. Plug and play options, not draft and develop options, right? Like you look at some of these guys they take, and it's draft and develop. Jordan Love was a draft and develop option. It wasn't, hey, we're drafting Jordan Love round 1 out of Utah State. He's going to start right away. No. Draft and develop. Lucas Van Ness on the edge. We already have Preston Smith when we draft him. We already have Rashawn Gary. Draft and develop. Green Bay needs certified solutions at wide receiver. Make life easier for Jordan Love. I don't care what you think of Jordan Love, because there are some people out there, and the jury is still out, that's fine. There are some people already over Jordan Love, which is crazy to me. And there are some people who still see the talent, and they still see the upside. I'm one of those guys. I think at his worst, Jordan Love would just be a decent starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, I think that floor, in my opinion, has been established. Everyone has an opinion, that's fine. But to not make life easier for him, to me, is like ludicrous. Because as of right now, and the big names are gone at wide receiver. They are. And I love Josh Jacobs at running back. I love Tucker Kraft at tight end. I like this offensive line. I like the wide receivers they have. But I like Dobbs better as a number 2 or a number 3 than a number 1. I like Jaden Reed right now better as a number 2 than I do as a number 1. I like Dontavian Wicks as a 3, a 2 or a 3 than I do as a 1. And so Green Bay right now, the plan is the same as last year. And to me, that's just crazy to go about it that way, which is, hey, cross your fingers. Let's hope that one of these guys takes a gigantic leap, becomes a number one, and alleviates some of that pressure and some of that weight on the shoulders of our young quarterback in Jordan Love. And when I say young quarterback for Jordan Love, yes, he's not as young as, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, some of these guys is drafted. But Love is only going to be a third-year starter. His career life in the NFL is young as a starting quarterback. But right now, the plan appears to be, let's hope, pray, one of these guys that we hoped and prayed last year would emerge as a number one will now just all of a sudden do it this year. With one of those four out of the equation, and Christian Watson, who again is going to miss significant time. Perhaps won't be back until November, December, after tearing his ACL week 18 in January against Chicago. Your plan is either right now, hey, hope for a gigantic leap from one of these wideouts or two of them, or Green Bay's just comfortable expecting Jordan Love to cover it up, be excellent, and take his game to another level. I think Jordan Love can and perhaps will take his game to another level in 2025. Maybe we'll look like that quarterback that we saw in the second half of the 2023 season. But you could have made that more of a guarantee by getting a more solidified option in at wide receiver. And I know some of these guys for the Packers were upset when Josh Jacobs was lobbying on Radio Row during Super Bowl week saying, man, Devontae Adams would be great. Man, it'd be great to get a number one wide receiver. Like, those were his words. Like, Green Bay needs a number one wide receiver. And it kind of ruffled the feathers with, Jaden Reed had sent out a tweet. Dontavian Wicks had sent out a tweet. Jacobs was not saying like, man, our wide receivers suck. I'm not trying to say that either. I love Dobbs, Wicks, Reed, Watson. But they've had, to me, Reed and Wicks are entering year 3. Neither have shown in year 1 or 2 that they might have the potential to be a number one on a consistent basis. Dobbs is entering year 4. Same with Watson when he returns. Neither of them have shown on a consistent basis, like, yes, this can be the it guy, the go-to guy, 3rd and 7. Who do I know can absolutely get separation, or who do I know might draw more than one set of eyeballs in his direction? It could free up someone else. Green Bay doesn't have that. And to me, the plan right now looks like, and it's not directly what they want to do, but it's, we're going to fill up Jordan Love's plate. We're going to rely on him heavily. And hopefully he figures it out, takes his game not only one level up, but multiple levels up, and can just mask some of these inconsistencies, inefficiencies we've seen with the passing game. Because it's not just Love, it's not just the wide receivers, it's not just, scheming guys open and how that kind of fizzled out a little bit throughout large portions of last year. It's all of it bottled into one. And to me, does Devontae Adams solve all of it? No, but he makes it a hell of a lot better and a hell of a lot easier for your young quarterback. And so it is, to me, somewhat frustrating seeing Washington go out and say, Jaden Daniels, we got our star quarterback. Let's kick back, relax, let's address other areas of need. He'll figure it out with the offense. He already has a number one in Scary Terry. No, they said, here's another in Debo. Let's really get this thing over the top. Let's really make life easy for our young quarterback. Jalen Hurts, year 1 starter 2021. Entering year 2, they're like, let's really make life easy for him. Here's a true number one wide receiver in A.J. Brown. Green Bay has not done that yet. Instead, it's draft, develop, hope. This was the offseason, in my opinion, to go out, try to pluck, try to acquire a number one wide receiver. They didn't do it. And so now I'm sitting back here in the middle of March wondering, is too much on Jordan Love's plate entering 2025? Like, what should realistic expectations be given what is in place right now? I'm expecting them to rely on the run game a hell of a lot. Josh Jacobs, hopefully a healthy Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson back in the frame as well. Chris Brooks still with the Packers too. I'm expecting Tucker Kraft to be a monster and a target menace. He was second last year in targets, receptions, yards, first in receiving touchdowns for Green Bay. I love the running back room. I like the tight end room. I'm hoping they use Luke Musgrave more as a vertical threat. Musgrave was not brought in to be a blocking tight end. He was brought in to be a vertical threat, a pass-catching tight end. There's a piece with more unknowns, in my opinion, than some of these wide receivers in the wideout room for Green Bay. But yeah, as of right now, it's just, it's not doom and gloom for Green Bay either, but it's hard to make a case that Green Bay isn't putting more than it should on Jordan Love's plate as of right now entering 2025. Like, I would have a hard time hearing that out because of the woes we saw in the passing game and how as of right now it's status quo. It's the same pieces in place entering next year. We'll have to wait and see, though. It is Mitch I'm on YouTube. Always appreciate all the support. Takes 1 second to do it. Bottom right corner. Click the subscribe button. Always appreciate the support, as I said. We'll see you next time.